Akim Shalom. Before I begin this lesson, I want to start off by giving all glory, honor, and praises unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Chakodash. Double honors unto the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who taught us this truth. A sincere shalom to the hopeful like this out there, listening, learning, and or teaching in truth and sincerity. Shalom. All right, Akim. So today I want to go into the difference between chattel slavery versus indentured servitude. And really, I want to lean more into the indentured servitude and, what the law says about it, the law of the Bible. Because, you have a lot of people that'll talk about how Hebrews had each other for slaves. All right. Scoffing, basically saying that that's the same thing that what we went through here as slaves to Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. Okay, so no, it's two different types of slavery. Okay, two different types of servitude. Okay, so we're just going to get the basic AI overview here. Chattel slavery versus indentured servitude. The AI overview says chattel slavery and indentured servitude were both common labor systems in early American history, but differed fundamentally in duration, status, and heredity. Indentured servitude was a voluntary temporal contract, often 3 to 7 years, for labor in exchange for passage, while chattel slavery was a permanent, involuntary, and heritable status where humans were legally owned as property. Right. So, when people say, oh, well, white people went through slavery too, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about indentured servitude. Okay, they voluntarily, they might have been in poverty, or like it says here, for passage. They signed a contract for 3 to 7 years to go basically work for somebody. Work somebody, serve somebody, same thing. In order to receive benefits. Okay. But what us Israelites, so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians have been going through at the hands of all these heathen nations is, especially Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, was what? Chattel slavery. Okay, which I'm going to read that part again. It says chattel slavery was a permanent, involuntary, and heritable status, right? You didn't just go serve chattel slavery for 3 to 7 years. You served it from the day you were born to the day you die. And then your children would serve after you. Okay, and so you were generationally a slave, okay, perpetually owned and treated like shit. Okay, with indentured servitude, there's boundaries, man. There's no boundaries with chattel slavery. If they wanted to grape you and then make your ass go work for 16 hours a day, 20 hours a day, get 4 hours of sleep, and feed you slop, they could do that. Okay, can't do that with indentured servitude or voluntary temporary servitude. All right, it says in a heritable status where humans were legally owned as property, right? And if they wanted to put you down, they could just put you down. I mean, there's, you could look into the history of what happened, man. We don't have to beat a dead horse. Okay, but what Esau, Edom did was absolutely atrocious, reprehensible, terrible. And that's why the Lord is going to punish him with slavery, chattel slavery, in the kingdom of heaven. Okay. But I also wanted to grab some definitions, man. Just the word indentured in the etymology. It says bound by indenture. 1748, an indentured servant. So we get the word indenture. Okay, it says enter into a covenant. Right. So you're entering into a contract. Bind by indenture. Okay. Was used earlier in a sense to wrinkle, furrow. Let's get the word indenture, just the basic definition. A legal agreement, contract, or document, right? So you volunteered if you were an indentured servant. And of course, the word servant itself in the etymology, C1200, servant, male or female, personal or domestic attendant, one owing duty or service to a master or lord. Okay, so yeah, it's going to be more strict than, you work in a corporate job here in America where you could just do whatever you want unless, they decide to fire you. Okay, this person, basically they owned you to an extent, but there were, there's rules behind it. Like they can't just treat you like an animal, okay, like they can with chattel slavery, right? A service to a master or lord, one employed by another and subject to his orders. Okay, so you're someone's personal servant, basically. Okay, within reason. Okay, and that's pretty much it. That's all I wanted to get on the, those definitions. So now I want to go into the scriptures and show you, how it was in the ancient world when, because the Lord set up this this law for a reason. You're allowed to have a Hebrew servant, okay, or a Hebrew, a Hebrew servant, someone that sells themselves to you, an Israelite who sells himself to you. Yes, you can have authority over another Israelite who sells themselves to you, but it was for the purpose of helping them get on their feet, okay? And, you will have authority over them, but of course within reason, right? That's why, there's another scripture that talks about how if you beat your servant, they go free or something along them lines. There's rules, okay? So this contract benefited both the master and the servant, okay? But again, it's a different type of servitude than chattel slavery, okay? So without any further ado, we're going to jump right into the scriptures. This is Leviticus 25:39. And if thy brother that dwelleth by thee be waxen poor, right? Your brother being another Israelite, okay, be sold unto thee, right? So he sells himself to you because he's poor. He has no other choice. Thou shalt not compel him to serve as a bond servant. Let's get this word bond servant. Okay, H5650. Okay. So this is H5650. And the word is Ibad, right? In the Paleo Hebrew, it's Ibad. So what does it mean? A slave, a servant, a slave, a servant, manservant, subjects, servants, worshippers of the Most High, servants in special cases, prophets, Levites, servitors, or servant as form of address between equals, right? Bondman, servant. Let's see here. Here we go. The lowest servant. A servant of servants, the lowest servant. Okay, that pretty much hits the nail on the head. Okay, that's the correct definition. Okay, because, it's making that distinction. Okay, so if he sells himself to you, right, he's your servant, but he's not going to serve you as what? As a bond servant. Okay. Verse 40, but as an hired servant, right? He's working a job. That's what he's doing. So, if a fellow Israelite fell into deep poverty, they had a lot of debts, they could sell themselves to you as a hired worker. Okay, so they basically your personal servant for, which is going to go into it for 7 years. All right, 6 years. Well, really 6 years, and the 7th year they would go free, right? But as an hired servant and as a sojourner, he shall be with thee and shall serve thee unto the year of Jubilee. And then shall he depart from thee, both he and his children with him, and shall return unto his own family, right? So he comes in with his children, with his wife. Okay, he serves you such and such time, then everybody gets to go free. Okay, so it's not like this thing where, oh, well, I own you now, and shit like that. It's not like that. So it says, and unto the possession of his fathers shall he return. Okay, and let's see here. We are going to keep going. Yeah, it says, for they are my servants, which I brought forth out of the land of Egypt. They shall not be sold as bondmen. Right, which a bondman is going into, that chattel slavery. It says, thou shalt not rule over him with rigor, but shall fear the Lord. Right, So you're going to have to show mercy, man. It's just like when you work a job. You get your breaks, you get your lunch, okay? You don't abuse employees. The same thing, you don't abuse a Hebrew servant. All right, verse 44, both thy bondmen and thy bondmaids, which thou shalt have, shall be of the heathen. That's right. So, yeah, we could have slaves if they are of the other nations, right? We could put them through chattel slavery. We could treat them like shit because we're over them, okay? And because we're Israelites, we're the greatest people on the planet Earth, and all the heathens were created to serve us anyway, okay? So, like it says here, man, shall be of the heathen that are round about you. Of them shall ye buy bondmen and bondmaids. Right. So you want a slave man or a slave woman, that has to be of the heathen. It can't be another Israelite. Okay? Because that was set up for our people, where you could have a servant Israelite, but it was really to benefit them, to build them up. And of course, it's going to build you up too, because, you have a servant. So it was a safety net. Now, we're going to keep going to verse 45. It says, moreover, of the children of the strangers that do sojourn among you, of them shall ye buy, and of their families that are with you, which they begat in your land, and they shall be your possession. Right, so the heathens that are in our land, we could buy and sell them and treat them like property. It says, ye shall take them as an inheritance for your children after you, to inherit them for a possession. They shall be your bondmen forever. But over your brethren, the children of Israel, ye shall not rule one over another with rigor. Okay, let's get this word rigor in the Hebrew. H6531. Okay. And the word is parak. In the ancient Hebrew is parak. And what does it mean? Harshness, severity, cruelty. Right. From an unused root meaning to break apart. Hey, Shalom Akim Salakia, the video had cut out for some reason. So, like we was reading this definition, man, it says from an unused root meaning to break apart, to fracture, severity, cruelty, rigor. Look at this. It says from the signification of crushing, right? Oppression, tyranny. Okay, yeah. Is levels to it. An Israelite being of the highest people on the earth. Okay, that's over all the heathen. Yeah, we could do that to them, but not to each other. Okay, so that's pretty much all I wanted to get in Leviticus. So I want to go to Exodus 21 and 1, and we're gonna go into the law here. It also goes into this situation, but just a little differently to get some more understanding. It's Exodus 21 and 1. Now these are the judgments which thou shalt set before them. If thou buy an Hebrew servant, 6 years he shall serve, and in the 7th he shall go out free for nothing. Meaning, okay, you can only have him under your subjection for 6 years, and in the 7th year you cannot charge him money. You cannot charge him and say, look, I can only let you go if you do this for me, or if you give me this much money, or so on and so forth. No, you have to let him go free. He is not your slave. He is your hired servant. Okay, it's a difference, right? Okay, so now it says, if he came in by himself, he shall go out by himself. If he were married, then his wife shall go out with him. Right. So if he came with his own wife, he can leave with his own wife. Right. Verse 4, if his master have given him a wife, right? Because sometimes you'll be, your master will give you a woman while you're there working with him. Okay. it says, and she have borne him sons or daughters, right? So let's say he has a Hebrew manservant and a Hebrew woman servant, right? Okay, that woman is also his servant, so he can't just, well, it's going to get into it. And she have borne him sons or daughters, the wife and her children shall be her masters, and he shall go out by himself. Right, so if on that 6th year, he already developed a relationship with a woman there who also belonged to the master, because the master gave him that woman, and the woman and that manservant both had kids together, well, it's too bad, because that woman belongs to the master. So if you want to leave, you can leave, but you got to leave by yourself. You can't take the master's woman from him, which, that was his woman or his servant. It says, and if the servant shall plainly say, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go out free, right? Because sometimes you would have a servant that, he liked that setup. He said, well, shit, I've been working here for a long time. It ain't that bad. I don't mind it. I got this woman. I got kids. I love my master. He treats me good. We work together. We do what we got to do together. Financially, this is working out. I love the setup, so on and so forth. I don't want to go free. Okay, well, if that happens, then it says, then his master shall bring him unto the judges, and he shall also bring him to the door, or unto the doorposts, and his master shall bore his ear through with an awl, and he shall serve him forever. Right? So, that's where you get the earring. They would basically put a hole through the ear and put an awl, okay, in the ear. Let's get this word awl, okay. H4836. Okay. And the word is maratazai. Maratazai. Okay. In the Paleo Hebrew, what does it mean? Awl, boring instrument, an awl. A small pointed tool used for piercing holes, especially in leather, right? And that's why brethren will say that when you, with this MOTB that's coming, Esau Edom, the so-called white man, wants to put an RFID chip in your hand or in your brain, Neuralink, Synchron, these brain-computer interfaces. That's an awl, okay? So, it's basically like when you brand cattle or horses, okay? Or you put a tag on their ear, so on and so forth. You own them, right? So that's what that represents, man. Back then and now with this technology that's coming forth. And that's why we urge you, brethren, not to take that chip, because you are either pledging allegiance to Esau Edom, the so-called white man, through his digital awl, or you are going to pledge allegiance to Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai by holding fast to the faith and enduring to the end. Doing what you're supposed to be doing, right? Okay, calling on the true names of Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai, serving the Lord to the best of your ability. Keeping the law to the best of your ability. Having faith in Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai. Being merciful, charitable. Okay, all these things the scriptures teach us to the best of your ability. Holding the faith to the end. Okay. So, back to the point, verse 6, if the servant liked the setup and he wanted to serve his Hebrew master forever, he could do that. Okay. Verse 7, and if a man sell his daughter to be a maidservant, she shall not go out as the maidservants do. Salakia Akim. But yep, that's all I wanted to grab on Exodus. Now we're going to go to Deuteronomy 15 and 12. Just kind of show you how this setup was, the Lord put this in the law as, as a safety net, man. Because this was a way to get back on your feet. If you were in poverty, and you really didn't have a way to kind of build yourself back up, or it was too hard, so on and so forth, hey, it would be a good idea to sell yourself to another Hebrew Israelite um, in order to get back on your feet. Build yourself up financially. Okay. And so, with that said, we're going to go into it and you're going to see. This is Deuteronomy 15:12. And if thy brother, an Hebrew man or an Hebrew woman, be sold unto thee, and serve thee 6 years, then in the 7th year thou shalt let him go free from thee, right? Don't be, an oppressor, be like, nah, you can't leave. Yeah, let them leave. Because the point of them serving you was to do what? To build themselves up. It wasn't for them to be owned by you, right? Verse 13, and when thou sendest him out free from thee, thou shalt not let him go away empty. That's right. So yeah, he worked for you, he built himself up, but hey, when you let him go, you want to give him something so he can build himself up. So he can, it's like they say, what do they say? You give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, you feed him, you teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime, right? So I guess that's not the best analogy, but the point being, they might give him a plot of land. He might give him some cattle. He might give him some tools, or whatever it may be. He's going to give him something so that not only did he build himself up financially there, but then he also got a gift or something for free to build himself up. So now he doesn't fall back into poverty. Now, with the wealth that he built, he's able to buy a piece of land or set himself up somewhere, start a family, maybe even build his wealth up to the point where now he can get servants. Okay? So it was a setup to, as a safety net, because you got other scriptures that talk about, thou shalt not glean thy vineyard. Okay, let's grab that real quick as an example. Real quick. Leviticus 19:10. And thou shalt not glean thy vineyard, neither shalt thou gather every grape of thy vineyard. Thou shalt leave them for the poor and stranger. I am Yahweh your power. So the Lord was against, being insatiable. Okay, you have a garden full of fruits, take most of them, but then leave a few here and there scattered so that the poor people could come eat them, man. Okay, don't be so greedy. You're doing well, and somebody out here is eating shit, not literally, but figuratively. Okay, have some mercy, have some compassion, bro. Okay, that's a big part of understanding this truth, man. We're merciful people. Okay, that's the way the Lord made us. We're not ruthless like Esau Edom, the so-called white man, who here he has all the wealth in the world, and even his own people, his own so-called white people, are out here living in cars because they don't have enough money to rent a property. Because that's the system they set up. They don't give a fuck. It's just heaping all riches to themselves, man, to the point where they oppress even their own, man. It's one thing to oppress the children of the light. It's understandable that Esau, being the demon he is, would treat us like shit. But on top of that, they don't even care about all of you Edomites. They got their own little group at the top, And of course, they got their little white privilege, but it's nothing compared to the wealth that they have, these international bankers, man. Heaping everything to themselves, man. Everything. Not even one drop. They rather you starve than give you one drop or one thing for free. All these corporations, the way they throw out all these tons and tons of food, and they blame it on, well, we could get a lawsuit. That's bullshit, man. That's bullshit. How come they could put a jump shot of Maxine Waters in your baby and make you sign a paper that you can't sue them, but you can't give away free food because a homeless guy will sue you? Get the fuck out of here, man. That's bullshit. Just because that's how those people are. Okay, so we're not like that. We are merciful. We create safety nets because people that are fucking poor, they cannot contribute to society if they're just eating out of trash cans all day, man. Let them get back on their feet. Let them have a fucking breath of fresh air so they could build themselves up and then build up society. But the Edomites, they don't think that way. It's all about them. It's me, 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 me. I don't want to lift a finger or turn my head or blink my eye to help you. And they wonder why their system is so fucked up. But anyway, that's besides the point. Let's get back to the point. Deuteronomy 15 and 13. And when thou sendest him out free from thee, thou shalt not let him go away empty. Thou shalt furnish him liberally out of thy flock, and out of thy floor, and out of thy winepress, of that wherewith Yahweh thy power hath blessed thee, thou shalt give unto him. Right? Flock, right? Give him animals. Give him wine. Okay, so on and so forth. Verse 15, and thou shalt remember that thou wast a bondman in the land of Egypt, right? Remember your slavery. Okay, the Lord's teaching us lessons through all this, all these reincarnations we lived. We were in hardcore slavery, shadow slavery in Egypt. Okay, and the Lord's reminding us, hey, you don't like that feeling, do you? Don't do it to yourselves. Don't do it to your brethren. Okay, your brothers and sisters. Don't treat them like shit. Okay. And thou shalt remember that thou wast a bondman in the land of Egypt, and that Yahweh thy power redeemed thee. Therefore I command thee this thing today. Okay, so the Lord is telling us, hey, so therefore, when you're Israelite, because that's the thing, if you're in poverty, you had no choice. You said, it's like, fuck it, well, I gotta be a servant to somebody. But the Lord didn't want us to have to be in that, didn't want the system to be in such a way where you have to be a servant and then go from one servant to another. It's like, no, you serve your 6 years. On the 7th year, you go free and you get a lot of, help from that servant. You get gifts, flock, wine, maybe a piece of land, whatever. Okay, that's how we're supposed to be. Charitable, helping each other out. Okay? Not keeping your boot on somebody's neck and using that against them. Okay? Because that's not good for nobody. That's not good for nobody. That's not the way of life. That's the way of the heathen. Okay? But that's pretty much it, Akim. Just showing you how, we didn't do each other wrong. That part of the law was just as a safety net. Okay? And, also showing you the difference between, chattel slavery that Esau put us through. Because, that type of slavery, you would be serving for 4 or 5 generations, getting graped, getting the shit kicked out of you, working 16, 17 hours a day, 3, 4 generations. And then what? What do? They throw you into the ghettos. Okay, that's unjust. And then they oppress you to this day. I mean, dude, if you really think about it, according to the law, man, this devil Esau got so much to pay for, man. This devil is gonna pay dearly with his life and his children's lives, man, in the future kingdom that's coming. Okay? Because he touched, not only did he do this, okay, to anybody, no, he did it to the apple of the Lord's eye, the Israelites. Okay, so he's gonna pay with his life. Okay? And that's pretty much it, Akim. I want to finish by giving all glory, honor, and praises to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachakwadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who taught us this truth. A sincere shalom to the hopeful like this out there listening, learning, and or teaching in truth, in sincerity. Shalom wa, ababa ball. Shalom.